Dr. Bones, Dr. Bones, Dr. Bones.
Right on. This is Dr. Bones Live, and join me again. Actually, this is his third appearance on the show within about 2 years. Welcome back for 3 Pines. Yeah, welcome back, Ed Roman.
Hey, how's it going, Brian? How
Very,
are you, my friend?
very well, Ed. How about yourself?
I can't complain. I can't complain.
Oh, I always love having you on, Ed. And this time around, it's pretty much a precursor and a warm up to your show here in London this Friday at Scott's Corner.
That's right. I'm really excited actually to play for the London people. It's my first time getting back there in a little while, especially as a solo act, and you know, I'm gonna get there back again with the band eventually. But I used to play at Call the Office a lot many years ago. I'm sort of dating myself back in the '80s. So regardless, London's a great town for art and people, and the Zone has such a good vibe. And man, I'm happy to be there, and I'm happy that they're having me.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, you know, there's been a lot of I've been to Call the Office plenty of times myself for shows, but there's one place. It's a newer place, and it's like it's not called the Art District, but it's part of the arts part of downtown area, and they pretty much go by donation. So you go in the door, 5, 10, 15, however much you want to donate, and it's a nice small venue because it's very, very intimate. And literally, there's just enough row for like maybe 20 chairs.
Yeah, see, that's like in New York City's the same thing. It's sometimes past the hat, or you get paid a little bit from the bar or whatever. But it's nice because you have that kind of crowd that's willing to listen and fork over, $5 or $10 because they're listening, and that's kind of what keeps that sort of vibe strong. Is that community, even if it's small, 20 people doesn't have to be 20,000.
Oh, very true. And I like those kind of concerts because it just like I said, it's nice and intimate, so you really get to know the artist. I mean, the first time I went to this place was about 2 years ago from seeing a band from Toronto, and when I walked in, like the opening band had just started, so I sat up front because there's only space left, and literally sat right next to the singer and kind of during in between songs, like, nice to meet you. So we're kind of talking back and forth, but still paying attention to the stage at the same time.
Right. It's intimate, right? But you
So-
can still chat with people. There's some other places in and around Ontario I like to play it for that same reason. There are only about 55 or 60 person rooms and or patios if it's the summertime. But it's the same thing. And like, I've played huge concerts to like 20,000 people. That's a whole other rush.
I could only imagine.
And an exhilarating kind of experience. But what you just said is so eloquent, because the reality is that intimate connection, even just talking with people, myself as the artist,
Right.
knowing that, like, they want to ask me a question about the music or just shoot debris or whatever it might be, it's all part of that experience for me as an artist, as opposed to being isolated in the dressing room somewhere backstage.
Fair enough. Well, I do have a really good friend of mine coming with me because I mentioned it to him, and because he's very close, so he heard the interviews and played him some of the albums, so he's really interested to see the show too. So, and I got some other people coming to the show that are kind of want to learn about you.
Cool.
I have a buddy actually who just moved back to London. He's been out of London for a number of years. He was living in Hamilton for a number of years, and he just moved back. And I said, "Well, if you're available, man, we're going to the show this Friday, so I think he's coming too." So,
Okay, so what should I do? Put you on the guest list for +2?
but just a +1 for now. He hasn't confirmed with me, so
That's okay, but you know what? I'll put down you +2, and
Okay.
then if he comes, and if it's not, there's a floater.
Okay. Yeah, no, sounds good. I appreciate that. So,
Yeah. I see your bass in the background there, man.
oh yeah,
And
yeah,
it's right underneath that poster of Marley.
yeah.
Oh. we
Yeah.
have a lot to talk about.
Oh yeah,
I'm
no,
like,
I
I'm wearing my Marley shirt today. It's like,
nice.
one good thing about music, when it hits, you feel no pain.
That's awesome. No, I got a couple basses and a couple guitars. It's one of many I have in the background behind me because almost directly behind me, you can probably just barely see is my record player.
I do. I kind of, yeah.
So
Vinyl baby.
oh yeah, I love my vinyl. So I was able to pick that up not too long ago, and it's pretty much a friend of a friend said, well, it was my uncle's, but he hasn't been. Well, they still keep in touch, but he's been out of town for a number of years. I'm sure if you ask him to have, you can have it. And that's what I did. He's like, yeah, awesome, like perfect.
But you know what? People are like, well, why do you bother? You know, like with us too. Even we listen to a lot of vinyl, especially a lot in the last couple of years. And it's like, well, it's, you know, people would say, well, you can just get your phone out and your MP3s are there. You can just jam in your car. You can listen to it. But for me, and I think you're the same way, it's like that tactical experience of like holding the vinyl
What?
and or looking through it. And even with older vinyl too, now it's part of history. But
Right.
I mean, it has its scars and love wounds, let's say, from the
Absolutely.
people that previously owned them. So I don't know if you believe in psychometry, but like sometimes that kind of stuff holds interesting energy. And when I go through the experience, hey, I pull out the vinyl album, put it on the turntable, clean it, you know, make sure everything's set, drop my needle, close my lid, sit back. I have an old Marantz tube amp, so that really sort of accentuates
God.
the whole experience. I know. Mike Jack gave it to me as a gift. He goes, I don't use it. Do you want them? I'm like, yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
right.
Because I had a modern solid state amp, a fairly decent amp. But if you A-B them, the difference between the tube and the amplifier and the solid state is night and day. It just doesn't have that same warmth. And so for me, when they're like, well, why do you do it? It's so time because I like it. I like somehow being involved still in that experience. You know,
Well-
than just going click, boom.
Well, exactly. And it's just a sound quality, right? And because even though you hit the play button, it'll do it yourself. But if you want to get that certain song, it's one of those things. It just very carefully make sure you get it in the right groove, right? So it doesn't track off the last song and go to the next one.
Yeah, you start looking around at the needle, and I got a little light over my turntable, so I make sure that's on. So if I want to listen to that particular tune, but see, that's the other thing is that the listening experience with vinyl turns you on to so many other things, not because of that lazy mentality, like you want to find track 3 on side 2,
Right.
but that through the process of listening it from A to B, you fall in love with different parts of the art form and different things that are happening, other than maybe like the A single that you may have bought the album, and that's why you bought it.
Right.
But now it's like you start saying to your buddies or whoever, hey, side 2, track 2 of side 2, yeah, all of that brings more of the art into the listener's sort of spectrum, and that's really why songwriters and people, we do that is because we're trying to encapsulate not just the whole idea of the record, but like the vignettes and how they all kind of belong together. And you miss that with the digital experience. And even as a teacher, I may have said this before, you open a kid's phone or something, they want to learn a tune, and they only have one track or maybe 2
Right.
from that record, right? So what else have they heard? It hasn't had time to grow on them in that interesting kind of way, right?
Well, that's right. I mean, I'm not really up for one-hit wonders, and I've bought in a lot of like CDs and vinyls, kind of essentially left them the chance. You hear 1 or 2 songs, and it's like, it sounds pretty decent, so I'm gonna take a chance. And 9 times out of 10, I was very pleased. There was probably maybe only a couple times I wasn't very happy with the album, but it's one of those things I listened to a few times that it just wouldn't grow on me. But I was like, no, that's fine. I still have it. I'll keep it anyways. But 9 times out of 10, the albums were just exactly what I wanted. And like I said, just taking a chance, right? Because the media wasn't available to listen to more, which was good. So essentially, you are leaving up the chance and just hoping that the album and or CD is a good one.
Well, yeah, or it's like, I hate when there's a movie I know that's going to come out that I really want to see. If I see a trailer, I avoid it. I try to close my eyes, shut the TV, whatever it is, because so often they give away
Everything.
lot of the, you know what I mean? And then you see the film and you're like, oh, it blew through me because I already saw everything in the commercials. So in a weird way, You know, the A part of that is like that single, excuse me, is like that part of the commercial, because you may then go, oh well, the movie's not as great as what that little tidbit was. So you're right. You don't know. I think what's interesting about now, and even then with the vinyl experience, is that instead of it just being about the tune, there was a lot more circumnavigating, let's say, by the listener as to who the artist was, what their philosophies are, what the history behind the tune was. There seemed to be a lot more of that than just taking it at face value and, you know, it being a club single or something like that. So for me, you know, that's another reason why maybe I checked out a certain artist. I'd hear a story about something that the artist would do, not even hearing the tune yet, and going, that's pretty cool that this guy or this woman was this way and they did these things. Like the time before I ever heard Billie Holiday, people were, Billie Holiday, check out Billie Holiday, what's Billie Holiday? And then I heard this thing from a friend of mine was talking about Strange Fruit. Right. And the whole thing behind black people being hung in the States, and this being a reference to Strange Fruit in this song. And when I understood the story, I went out and got the Billie Holiday album that tune was from, and I was like, oh, Billie Holiday! Yeah, right. It was like a whole other experience because of that tenaciousness and for that moment that they were writing about, you know. So that's a big part of it too, I think.
Oh, absolutely. You know, there's one like jazz album in particular. Speaking of, except it's Miles Davis and Strange Brew.
Oh yeah.
And
you mean Bitches Brew?
Bitches Brew. Sorry, Strange Brew is the movie.
The dog
yes, yeah, exactly.
And Eric Clapton.
Yeah, so a little bit different, but Bitches Brew, that and Silence are two of my favorite Miles Davis albums. But I got into them because of my parents, like growing up with that, and then I kind of lost interest for a little bit. But what's kind of weird how I got back into it again is this is probably about 98, 99. I mean, I was kind of listening to it, but I really got heavily into it because I went out and I was living in Michigan for a certain period of time, and if you remember the sea chain called Harmony House, I went in there and I was looking just to see what they had. And I found a live CD of John McLaughlin with Chick Corea, like live in Tokyo.
Yeah.
And I listened to this, I was like, man, that's amazing. It's like, I gotta go back to some old stuff. And they pulled it out, I was like, why haven't I listened to this? And like, I really got into it and really dissected, like, this is this crazy stuff. And that kind of expanded from there too, right? Because one of my favorite jazz guitarists, his name is Charlie Hunter.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And the first one I had from him was Natty Dread.
Yeah.
So, like favorite, one of my favorites by his album, by him. But the one thing that was interesting too is he's obviously, a lot of musicians are connected to other musicians throughout the business, whether they're friends or what have you, do jam sessions, that sort of thing. But Charlie Hunter was connected to Les Claypool from Primus.
Okay.
And Les Claypool did a solo album. This is like 96, 95, called Highball for the Devil. And there's a song in there called Me and Chuck. And the Me and Chuck is him and Charlie Hunter, and they're and the tune's about Charlie Hunter, and he plays on it too. Yeah.
So wait, so the Natty Dread thing, was that an homage to Bob?
A little bit. I mean, kind of in bits and pieces. So, okay. In a roundabout way. I mean, he never was fully kind of disclosed everything about the album, but he kind of tiptoed around it. So you kind of get the impression from what he said, and by listening to the album, kind of make some of the tie-ins.
Okay, I got you. Yeah, you know, that's the thing, and that's the story. All those connection points, even just what you said. Well, there was this thing about them working together, and all of a sudden you may get turned on to other people. That happened with McLaughlin. I saw that Carlos Santana had cut a record with John McLaughlin, and it was back in the early 70s, and that turned me on to John and Paco de Lucia and a whole bunch of other people that were from that, you know, era of, and I was like, whoa. So again, it's the connection point between the cross-melding of those artists that turns you on to other stuff as well. What was the album that Claypool, Stuart Copeland, and Trey Anastasio from Fish?
Glad you brought that up, man. Oysterhead. Yeah. Oysterhead, the Grand Pecking Order.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. I was just listening to that the other week. I'm glad.
See, and that's the thing. It's like the side project of those guys going, let's try this. What the hell? Like, let's see what happens. They came and did the show in Toronto. I couldn't see the show. It was at the Opera House. Yeah. But apparently it was like, I don't know. It depends on the crowd of people that are also seeing it too, because you got the half crowd that are the kind of really particular musician types that are over scrutinizing it for the musicianship.
Right.
And you got the other half of the audience that's there for the, wow, this is crazy that this is all happening. So you got kind of a 50-50 split.